The night smelled of smoke and judgment. A full moon hung low above the clearing. Too bright. Too unforgiving. It illuminated everything. Every face. Every whisper. Every cruel intention hiding in the dark. The pack had gathered. Not for celebration. Not for war. But for something far worse. A trial. She stood at the center of it all. Head lowered. Shoulders drawn in. As if she could somehow make herself smaller. Disappear. But they wouldn't let her. They never did. Step forward. The command came sharp. Cold. Unquestionable. Her body hesitated. Just for a second. Then she moved. One step. Then another. Slow. Careful. As if the ground itself might reject her. The murmurs started immediately. Low at first. Then spreading. Like rot beneath the surface. Don't let her show her face. Keep her covered. She'll curse us all. She flinched. Not visibly. But inside. It hit. Like it always did. Her fingers tightened around the edge of her hood. Pulling it lower. Hiding. But it wasn't enough. It was never enough. She shouldn't even be here. The voice came louder this time. Sharper. Meant to be heard. She shouldn't exist. Silence followed. Heavy. Suffocating. No one argued. No one defended her. No one even looked away. Because deep down, they agreed. She swallowed. Hard. Her throat burned. But no words came out. They never did anymore. A figure stepped forward from the shadows. The Alpha. Power radiated from him. Authority. Finality. His gaze fell on her. And for a moment, even the whispers died. Remove it. Her breath caught. Just for a second. No. The word barely formed in her mind. Before it was crushed. A hand grabbed her arm. Rough. Unforgiving. Another tore at her hood. Fabric slipped. Fell. And the world saw her. Gasps. Sharp. Uncontrolled. Someone turned away. Another cursed under their breath. Disgusting. She froze. Eyes wide. Heart pounding so hard it hurt. There it was again. That look. That same look she had seen her entire life. Fear. Disgust. Rejection. The Alpha's voice cut through it all. Cold. Final. This creature. He paused. Letting the word sink in. Is too ugly to be seen. The sentence landed like a blade. Clean. Precise. Permanent. A ripple moved through the crowd. Agreement. Approval. Relief. As of this night. The Alpha continued. She will remain covered. Her face will never be shown again. A few nods. A few smirks. Someone laughed. Soft. Cruel. She didn't move. Couldn't. Something inside her. Cracked. Not loudly. Not violently. Just enough. Her hand slowly rose. Not to fight. Not to speak. But to cover her face again. Because that was all she had left. Silence returned. But this time, it felt different. Heavier. Because the judgment had already been made. And no one would ever question it. Or so they thought. Far beyond the edge of the gathering. Hidden in shadow. Unseen by all. A presence stood still. Watching. Not with disgust. Not with fear. But with something far more dangerous. Interest. And as the girl stood there, broken, exposed, forgotten. Those eyes never left her. Because that night, someone else was watching. Her name was Elira. But no one called her that anymore. Not in the kitchens. Not in the servant halls. Not in the courtyard where the warriors trained beneath the morning sun. To them, she was simply the covered girl. The faceless Omega. The thing that walked with her head down. The mistake the pack had not yet found a way to erase. Elira learned very early that in the Blackthorn pack, beauty was not a blessing. It was currency. A beautiful daughter could marry into power. A beautiful she-wolf could stand beside an alpha. A beautiful Omega might still earn pity. But an ugly one was treated like a warning. Like proof that the moon goddess could make errors. So Elira covered her face. Every morning, before the first bell rang, she wrapped a dark veil around her hair. Then she pulled the hood over it. Then she checked the mirror. Not to admire herself. Never that. Only to make sure nothing showed. Not her cheek. Not her jaw. Not the faint scar near her mouth. And never the mark on her neck. Because that mark was worse than her face. Her face made people cruel. The mark made them afraid. It sat just beneath her left ear, hidden beneath cloth and loose strands of hair. At first glance, it looked like an old burn. A strange, twisted pattern pressed into her skin. But sometimes, when the moon was too bright, or when her heart beat too fast, it glowed. Soft gold. Then amber. Then something almost red. Like fire trapped beneath flesh. Elira did not know what it meant. She only knew that the first time it glowed, her mother had gone pale. And the second time, her mother had told her to hide it. Not from strangers. From everyone. Even the pack. Especially the pack. But her mother was dead now. And dead women could not protect their daughters. So Elira protected herself the only way she knew how. By becoming invisible. She rose before dawn. Before the warriors. Before the noble families. Before the alpha's daughter opened her curtains and complained that the light was too harsh. Elira cleaned the ash from the hearths. Carried water until her arms shook. Scrubbed blood from training stones after the young males practiced with blades. Washed silk gowns she was forbidden to touch with bare hands. And when she passed others in the halls, she stepped aside. Always. Even when she had the heavier load. Even when the corridor was wide enough for two. Even when they saw her coming and walked straight toward her anyway. Because that was the order of things. Alphas did not move for betas. Betas did not move for omegas. And no one moved for Elira. Careful, one maid whispered one morning, pulling her skirt away as Elira passed with a basket of linens. As if ugliness spreads by touching cloth. The others giggled. Elira kept walking. She had learned not to answer. Words only made them worse. Silence, at least, gave them less to play with. In the courtyard, children stopped their games when they saw her. One little boy pointed. His mother snatched his hand down so quickly he cried out. "Don't stare," the woman hissed. Then, softer. But not soft enough. "Don't look at her face." Elira's fingers tightened around the basket handle. She did not look at the child. She did not look at the mother. She looked at the ground. The ground never flinched. The ground never whispered. The ground never asked why the moon had made her wrong. By midday, the pack square was alive with noise. Warriors laughed around the training posts. Young females carried flowers toward the great hall. Servants rushed between kitchens and storerooms. Everyone had somewhere to go. Everyone had someone to be. Except Elira. She belonged to the spaces between. The back staircases. The smoke-dark pantry. The narrow servant room beneath the west tower, where the roof leaked when it rained and the winter wind slipped through cracks in the stone. That room had no mirror. Elira preferred it that way. The pack preferred it too. Out of sight. Out of mind. Out of mercy. At least, that was what Alpha Draven called it. Mercy. He was the ruler of Blackthorn. A man with silver at his temples, iron in his voice, and pride polished so smooth it looked almost noble. He cared about appearances the way other men cared about bloodlines. The banners had to hang evenly. The warriors had to stand straight. The servants had to bow low. And the women of his household had to be beautiful. Because beauty, to Alpha Draven, was proof of divine favor. Strength proved the wolf. Beauty proved the blood. And Elira had neither. At least, that was what he believed. She had been 10 when he first ordered her face covered. Not privately. Not gently. In the old judgment hall, beneath the carved bones of former alphas, he looked down at her and said, "There is no need for the pack to suffer the sight of what cannot be repaired." Her mother had begged. Elira remembered that part most clearly. Not the words. Not all of them. Only the sound. A proud woman breaking. "Please, Alpha. She is only a child." Draven had not even blinked. Then teach the child shame before the world teaches it more harshly. That was the day the veil began. That was the day Elira learned that cruelty did not always shout. Sometimes it wore a crown of authority. Sometimes it called itself protection. Sometimes it sounded reasonable enough that others nodded along. And they had nodded. All of them. The elders. The guards. The women who had once smiled at her mother. Even the priestess who served the moon altar. No one stopped it. No one said, "She is only a girl." No one said, "This is wrong." So Elira grew inside the veil. Year by year. Silence by silence. Until the girl beneath it began to feel less real than the cloth itself. But there was one person who always looked at her. Seraphine. Alpha Draven's favored ward. The pack's golden flower. Beautiful in the way weapons could be beautiful. Sharp. Bright. Dangerous. She had pale gold hair that fell in perfect waves. Skin like fresh cream. A smile that made men lose their thoughts. And eyes that only softened when someone important was watching. To the pack, Seraphine was everything a future Luna should be. Graceful. Elegant. Desired. To Elira, she was a blade wrapped in silk. "Move," Seraphine said one afternoon as Elira arranged candles in the great hall. Elira stepped back instantly. Too fast. Her elbow struck the table. One candle rolled. Wax spilled across the polished wood. The nearby servants froze. Seraphine looked down at the mess. Then at Elira. Slowly, she smiled. "Oh, no." Her voice was sweet. Almost delighted. "Look what you've done." Elira dropped to her knees. "I'm sorry." Her voice was low. Rough from disuse. "I'll clean it." "You always clean," Seraphine said, stepping closer. "That is the only useful thing about you." A few girls nearby laughed. Elira reached for the cloth. Seraphine placed one slippered foot on it. Not hard. Just enough. Enough to remind her who stood above. "Do you know what I heard this morning?" Seraphine asked. Elira stayed still. "No. I heard the Rogue King has been seen near the northern borders." At that, the hall quieted. Even the servants stopped pretending not to listen. The Rogue King. Ronan. No one spoke his name casually. Not unless they wanted silence to follow. He ruled no ordinary pack. He was said to command the wolves who answered to no counsel. Rogues. Exiles. Banished warriors. Broken bloodlines. Those no respectable pack would claim. And yet, Under him, they had become something worse than an army. They had become a kingdom. Some said he had killed 3 alphas before his 25th winter. Some said his wolf was black as smoke and twice the size of any living beast. Some said he could smell lies before they were spoken. And some whispered that he only appeared when a pack had already begun to rot from the inside. Elira did not know which stories were true. But she knew the fear in the room was real. Seraphine leaned closer. "Imagine that," she murmured. "A king of monsters walking near our borders." Her gaze slid over Elira's veil. "Perhaps he has come for one of his own." The laughter came again. Sharper this time. Elira lowered her eyes. But beneath the cloth wrapped around her neck, the hidden mark warmed. Just slightly. A pulse. A warning. She pressed her hand to it. Seraphine noticed. Of course she did. "What are you hiding there?" Elira's blood chilled. "Nothing." Seraphine's smile widened. "Then show me." Elira stood too quickly. "I have work in the kitchens." She tried to move around her. But Seraphine caught her wrist. Her nails dug in. "Careful," she whispered. "One day, that veil will come off. And when it does..." She leaned close enough for Elira to smell roses on her breath. "I hope everyone is watching." Elira pulled free. Not violently. Not enough to be punished. But enough. Then she walked away. Slowly. Because running would have made them happy. And she had already given them too much. By evening, the sky had turned the color of old bruises. The pack gathered for supper in the long hall. Elira served from the shadows, moving between tables with a pitcher of dark wine. She heard everything. That was another thing invisible girls learned. People spoke freely around them. They forgot servants had ears. They forgot shame had memory. "The rogue king sent no messenger," one elder muttered near the alpha's table. "Then perhaps the rumor is false," said another. Alpha Draven's jaw tightened. Ronan does not need messengers. Men like him announce themselves by ruining whatever peace they touch. Seraphine sat at his right hand, draped in emerald silk. Her beauty glowed beneath candlelight. Would he dare enter Blackthorn territory, she asked. Draven looked toward the windows, where night pressed against the glass. "He dares too much." That was all he said. But Elira saw the tension in his hand around the goblet. The great Alpha was afraid. Not openly. Never openly. But enough. And fear in powerful men was dangerous. Because they always found someone weaker to bleed for it. The next morning, the announcement came. All pack members were to gather at moonrise in the main courtyard. Every rank. Every bloodline. Every servant. No exceptions. A ceremonial inspection would be held before the visiting border delegates arrived. Alpha Draven wanted Blackthorn to appear united. Strong. Pure. Beautiful. The order was nailed to the hall doors before breakfast. Elira read it twice. Then a third time. Her stomach sinking deeper with every word. Every servant. No exceptions. A coldness spread through her hands. She would be seen. Not passing through a hallway. Not half hidden behind smoke and work. Seen. Placed beneath torchlight. Measured before the pack. And if Seraphine had anything to do with it. Exposed. By noon, the kitchens buzzed with preparation. Bread was baked. Meat was seasoned. Wine was pulled from the cellars. The noble women argued over gowns. Warriors polished armor until it caught the light. Everyone prepared to be admired. Elira prepared to survive. She tightened the cloth around her neck until it nearly hurt. Then she pinned her veil lower. Then she added the hood. Layer after layer. A wall of fabric between herself and the world. Still, her hands shook. Old Mara, the oldest kitchen servant, noticed. She said nothing at first. Only pushed a bowl of stew toward her. Eat. I'm not hungry. Fear burns faster on an empty stomach. Elira looked up. Mara's face was lined, tired, unreadable. She had never been kind exactly. But she had never been cruel either. In Blackthorn, that almost felt like love. Elira took the bowl. Her fingers curled around the warmth. Do you think they'll make me stand with the others? Mara's mouth tightened. They already have. Elira's throat closed. I can stay behind the servants. You can try. That was the worst answer. Because it was honest. From outside, the sound of laughter floated through the open kitchen door. Seraphine's voice followed. Bright. Careless. Cruel without effort. She'll come covered like a corpse, I'm sure. Another girl giggled. Maybe the Alpha will finally banish her. No, Seraphine said softly. Banishment is too kind. Elira stopped breathing. Mara reached over and took the bowl from her before it could slip. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing to say. By sunset, the courtyard was transformed. Torches burned in iron brackets. Banners snapped in the wind. The moon rose full and silver beyond the black pines. Every shadow looked sharpened. Every stone seemed washed clean for judgment. The pack assembled by rank. Alphas and noble families near the front. Warriors behind them. Servants at the edges. Omegas in the cold spaces where torchlight barely reached. Elira tried to stand there. At the edge. Where she belonged. Where no one would notice. But fate had never been so merciful. A guard found her before the ceremony began. You. Elira stiffened. The guard's eyes moved over her veil with distaste. The Alpha wants all servants lined properly. No hiding in corners. I am lined properly. Not there. He pointed toward the open stone path leading to the center of the courtyard. Elira stared. Her heart gave one hard, painful beat. No, she whispered before she could stop herself. The guard's expression changed. Not anger. Satisfaction. What was that? Elira lowered her head. Nothing. That's what I thought. He gripped her arm. Not hard enough to bruise. Hard enough to command. And began pulling her forward. Faces turned. One by one. Whispers followed. Like insects crawling over skin. There she is. Why is she here? Shouldn't she be kept inside? A child gasped. His mother turned his face away. Don't look. Elira heard it. Every word. Every breath. Every small rejection. And beneath the cloth at her throat. The mark began to burn. Not warm now. Hot. Alive. She pressed her free hand against it. The guard dragged her closer to the center. Closer to the torches. Closer to Alpha Draven. Closer to Seraphine's waiting smile. The ceremony had not even begun. And already, Elira knew. Something terrible was coming. Alpha Draven rose from his carved seat at the head of the courtyard. His black cloak moved behind him like a shadow. His gaze swept over the gathered pack. Proud. Cold. Possessive. Then it landed on her. The smallest pause. Barely there. But Seraphine saw it. She always saw weakness when it could be turned into a weapon. My Alpha, she said sweetly, stepping forward. The courtyard quieted. Elira's pulse thundered. Seraphine lowered her lashes in false concern. If tonight is meant to show Blackthorn's strength and purity. She turned. Slowly. Toward Elira. Should we allow shame to stand covered among us? A murmur passed through the crowd. Elira's breath caught. No. Not now. Not here. Alpha Draven looked at her veil. Then at the watching pack. His pride was a living thing. Hungry. Easily wounded. And Seraphine had just fed it. Bring her forward, he ordered. The guard shoved Elira ahead. Her feet nearly tangled. But she caught herself. Barely. The courtyard opened around her. A circle of faces. A wall of eyes. No door. No mercy. No place left to disappear. Her mark burned brighter beneath the cloth. She could feel the glow trying to break through. Trying to be seen. She pressed her hand harder against her neck. But Seraphine's smile sharpened. Alpha Draven's voice fell cold across the stones. Remove your hood. Elira could not move. The whole world seemed to narrow to those 3 words. Remove your hood. The command she had feared since childhood. The command that could destroy the last thin wall between her and their disgust. Please, she whispered. It was a mistake. She knew at the moment the word left her mouth. Because the pack heard it. And weakness, in Blackthorn, was an invitation. Seraphine stepped closer. Oh, don't be afraid, she said softly. Then her hand lifted toward Elira's veil. You were born for everyone to look away from. Elira stepped back. The guard caught her shoulders. The crowd leaned in. The moon brightened above them. And somewhere beyond the edge of the courtyard, hidden where the torchlight died, a pair of amber eyes opened in the dark. Watching. Waiting. Silent. Elira did not see them. She only saw Seraphine's hand reaching for the veil. She only felt the mark burning hotter. She only heard Alpha Draven's final command. Show the pack what you are. And this time, there would be no hiding. For a moment, no one moved. Not the Alpha. Not Seraphine. Not the crowd pressing in like a living wall. Even the wind seemed to hesitate, as if the night itself was holding its breath. Then it came. A sound. Low at first. Almost mistaken for thunder. But it wasn't thunder. It was hooves. Slow. Measured. Heavy against stone. The guards near the gate stiffened. One of them turned. Too late. The great iron doors of the courtyard did not open. They didn't need to. They were pushed. And the moment they gave way, the temperature of the night changed. Something entered. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But with presence. The kind that didn't ask for attention. The kind that took it. The first wolf stepped in. Massive. Black as shadow. Eyes glowing faint gold beneath the torchlight. Then another. And another. Rogues. Not pack-bound. Not sworn. Not controlled. They moved like silence given shape. Surrounding. Claiming space without a word. A ripple of unease spread through Blackthorn. Warriors shifted. Hands hovered near blades. But no one drew. Because they knew. You didn't draw steel against rogues. Not unless you wanted to die proving a point no one would remember. Then he stepped in. No announcement. No herald. No warning. Just him. Ronan. The Rogue King. He did not rush. Did not look around. Did not acknowledge the tension snapping through the air. He walked forward like the courtyard already belonged to him. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Wrapped in dark leather and fur that seemed to swallow the torchlight instead of reflecting it. His hair fell loose. Slightly damp. Strands clinging to his forehead as if he had come straight from battle, or something worse. His eyes. Amber. Not soft gold. Not warm. But burning. The kind of gaze that didn't look at you. But through you. The kind that didn't ask what you were. But decided it. Alpha Draven stepped forward. Slowly. Carefully. Ronan, he said. The name was controlled. But not steady. You cross into Blackthorn without word. Ronan did not answer. Not immediately. His gaze moved once. Just once. Across the courtyard. Over warriors. Over nobles. Over Seraphine, who straightened instinctively under his presence. And then. It stopped. On her. Elira. Still held in place. Still trapped in the center. Still half exposed. Half hidden. His gaze did not flicker. Did not recoil. Did not narrow in disgust. It stayed. That was the first thing that felt wrong. Because everyone else looked away. Everyone else always looked away. But he didn't. Elira felt it before she fully understood it. That weight. That attention. It pressed against her like heat. She lowered her head immediately. Instinct. Survival. Don't be seen. Don't be noticed. Don't give them more. But it didn't matter. Because he had already seen her. And now. He wasn't looking anywhere else. State your purpose. Alpha Draven's voice came sharper this time. Tighter. Still. Ronan did not answer. He took another step forward. The rogues behind him spread slightly. Not threatening. Just adjusting. Like wolves closing ranks around something valuable. Elira's pulse stuttered. Why was he here? Why now? Why? The mark. It burned. Sharp. Sudden. Alive beneath her skin. Her breath hitched. She pressed her hand harder against her neck. Trying to hold it down. Trying to force it quiet. Not now. Please. Not now. A flicker of light slipped beneath the edge of her veil. So faint. No one should have noticed. No one but him. Ronan's eyes shifted. Just slightly. Down. To her throat. Then back up. Slow. Deliberate. Elira froze. He saw it. He shouldn't have seen it. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Louder. Faster. The mark pulsed again. Brighter this time. She clenched her teeth. Forced her breathing to steady. Control it. Hide it. Disappear. Careful. Seraphine's voice cut in. Low. Sharp. Elira flinched. Seraphine had noticed her movement. Not the mark. Not the glow. But the fear. And fear was enough. Look at her, Seraphine said softly, turning slightly toward the Alpha. As if she has something to hide. A murmur rippled again. Elira's stomach dropped. No. Not this. Not now. Alpha Draven's gaze sharpened. What are you hiding? The question hung. Heavy. Dangerous. Elira shook her head. No, nothing. Weak. Too weak. Seraphine smiled. She always says that. The crowd shifted. Leaning in. Hungry. Ronan's gaze never left her. Not her face. Her. Like he was reading something. Something no one else could see. Why? What did he notice? Why wasn't he reacting like the others? Why wasn't he disgusted? That should have been the reaction. That was always the reaction. But there was no disgust. Only focus. And something else. Something far more dangerous. Interest. Elira's breath faltered. Her chest tightened. Fear. Yes. That made sense. But beneath it. Something else moved. A pull. Faint. Unwanted. Like her body recognized something. Before her mind could. She stepped back. Just one step. The guard tightened his grip. No. The words slipped out. Barely sound. Ronan's head tilted. Just slightly. As if he had heard it. As if it mattered. The mark burned again. Stronger. Elira gasped softly. Her fingers digging into the cloth at her throat. If it kept building. If it broke through. Everything would end. Enough. Alpha Draven's voice snapped through the moment. He turned fully toward Elira now. This spectacle has gone on long enough. Seraphine stepped aside. Graceful. Eager. Remove the rest, the Alpha ordered. The guard's hand moved toward her veil again. Elira's vision blurred. No. No. And then. Stop. The word wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It cut through the courtyard like steel drawn across bone. Every head turned. Ronan had finally spoken. Alpha Draven's jaw tightened. You do not give commands here. Ronan's gaze didn't shift. Didn't acknowledge the Alpha. Didn't acknowledge anyone. Only her. Step forward. The words were directed at Elira. Not the Alpha. Not the guards. Her. The courtyard went still. Confusion flickered across faces. Why her? Why now? Elira didn't move. She couldn't. Because this was worse than the crowd. Worse than Seraphine. Worse than the Alpha's judgment. This was something else. Something unknown. An unknown was always more dangerous. Step. Ronan repeated. Softer. More dangerous. The guard hesitated. Just for a second. Then released her. That was all it took. Elira stood there. Unheld. Unhidden. Every instinct screamed at her to stay still. To disappear. To refuse. But something else. Something deeper. Something tied to the fire beneath her skin. Pulled. Toward him. She took one step. The mark flared. Her breath caught. Another step. The crowd parted slightly. Without realizing it. Giving space. Making a path. She stopped just short of him. Close enough to feel the heat of his presence. Close enough to feel how still he was. Close enough to realize. He was studying her. Not like the others. Not like prey. Not like something broken. But like something rare. Something unfinished. Elira's heart pounded. Why? Why was he looking at her like that? What did he see? What did he want? Ronan's gaze dropped once more. To the edge of her veil. To the place where her hand pressed against the hidden mark. Then back up. Slow. Certain. And in that moment, Elira understood something terrifying. He knew. Not everything. But enough. Enough to change everything. Alpha Draven stepped forward. Anger rising now. This ends. Ronan didn't look at him. Didn't acknowledge him. He simply said. She stays. The courtyard erupted into murmurs. What? Who does he think? Alpha Draven's voice cut through them all. You forget yourself. Ronan's gaze finally shifted. Just slightly. Not to challenge. But to warn. The kind of warning that didn't need words. The kind that ended wars before they began. Silence fell again. Heavy. Uncertain. Elira stood between them. Between power and power. Between control. And something far more dangerous. And she didn't understand it. Not yet. But one thing was clear. He shouldn't have noticed her. He shouldn't have cared. He shouldn't have been interested. But he was. The silence didn't last. It never did. Tension, when left alone for too long, always broke. And this time, it shattered. Alpha Draven stepped forward. Slow. controlled. But the restraint in his posture was already cracking. "You forget where you stand," he said. His voice carried. Cold. Measured. Dangerous. The words were meant for Ronan. But his eyes. They were on her. Elira felt it like a blade pressed lightly against her skin. Not cutting. Not yet. Waiting. "You walk into my territory," Draven continued, "interrupt my judgment." A pause. Heavy. Intentional. And presumed to interfere. Ronan didn't move. Didn't answer. Didn't even look at him. That was worse. Because nothing angered a man like Draven more than being ignored. The courtyard shifted. Warriors straightened. Servants lowered their heads further. Even the rogues seemed to grow stiller. Waiting. For something to break. Draven exhaled slowly. Then smiled. Not kindly. "Very well." His gaze sharpened. "If you wish to witness the judgment." Another step forward. "Then you will witness all of it." Elira's stomach dropped. "No." The guard behind her moved before she could react. Hands on her arms. Hard. Unyielding. She was pulled back. Forced down. Her knees hit stone. The impact echoed up her spine. But she barely felt it. Because the real pain was already beginning. "Stand her properly," Draven ordered. The guard adjusted his grip. Dragging her forward again. Positioning her directly in the center. No shadows. No corners. Only torchlight. Only eyes. Too many eyes. Elira's breath grew shallow. Her fingers curled into the fabric at her chest. Holding. Clinging. "Don't shake. Don't break. Don't." "Look at her." Seraphine's voice. Soft. Satisfied. She stepped forward. Slowly. Gracefully. Every movement designed to be seen. To think this is what Blackthorn has been hiding all this time. A ripple of murmurs spread. "She walks our halls." Seraphine circled her. "Like a predator tasting the air. Breathes our air. A step closer. Serves in our kitchens." She stopped just behind Elira. Leaning slightly. "And we pretend she belongs here." Laughter. Low at first. Then growing. Elira closed her eyes. Not to escape. But to survive it. Because if she looked. If she met even one of those faces. It would break something she wouldn't be able to put back together. She should have been cast out years ago, someone called. A curse, another voice added. A stain on the pack. Elira's throat tightened. Her chest ached. But she said nothing. Because words would only feed them. And she had nothing left to give. Enough. Draven's voice cut through the noise. The laughter faded. But the cruelty didn't. It lingered. Hung in the air like smoke. "Remove it." The command came sharper this time. Final. The guard's hand reached for her veil. Elira's eyes snapped open. No. Too late. The fabric was pulled. Torn away. And for a moment. The world held its breath. Then. Gasps. Sharp. Uncontrolled. A woman turned away instantly. Another recoiled as if struck. Gods. Look at her. That's not natural. Elira felt it. Every reaction. Every flinch. Every shift of disgust. Like hands. Cold. Gripping. Pulling her apart. She couldn't breathe. Her vision blurred. And then. The laughter came. Not quiet. Not subtle. Cruel. Oh, she's worse than I imagined. How is she even still alive? Cover her. No, let everyone see. Elira's hands rose instinctively, trying to cover her face, trying to hide. But Seraphine caught her wrists. Firm. Unforgiving. No. The word was a whisper. But it held. Let them see what you are. Elira struggled. Just once. It wasn't enough. Her arms were forced down. Exposed. Helpless. And the final blow came. A voice from the crowd. Sharp. Clear. She's not a wolf. A pause. Then. She's a curse. Silence. Heavy. Absolute. Not because they disagreed, but because it felt true. Elira felt something inside her collapse. Not loudly. Not violently. Just enough. Her chest tightened. Her vision dimmed. And beneath her skin, something broke free. The mark. It burned. Not warm. Not flickering. Burning. Alive. Light seeped through her skin. Faint at first. Then stronger. Gold. Amber. Cracking through the illusion of control she had held for years. Elira gasped. Her body tensed. No. No, not now. She twisted slightly. Trying to hide it. Trying to press her hand over her neck. But it was too late. The glow pulsed again. Stronger. And this time, everyone saw it. What is that? The crowd shifted. Fear replacing mockery. That's not normal. Is she? Elira's breathing became uneven. Her heart raced. Too fast. Too loud. She couldn't stop it. The more she tried to suppress it, the stronger it became. Hold her. Draven's voice cut in again. Sharpen now. Threatened. The guard tightened his grip. But Elira barely felt it. Because the fire beneath her skin was spreading. Up her neck. Across her collarbone. She shook her head. Frantically. Please. It wasn't a plea to them. It was a plea to herself. To whatever this was. Stop. But it didn't. Because something had already changed. Not in her. In the air. A shift. Subtle. But undeniable. And Ronan felt it. Of course he did. He stepped forward. Slowly. Not rushing. Not reacting like the others. Not with fear. Not with disgust. With focus. Pure. Undivided. His gaze locked onto the mark. Watching. Measuring. Understanding. The crowd parted without realizing it. Giving him space. Giving him access. Elira saw him coming. Her breath caught. Because this was worse. Not the crowd. Not the insults. Not the Alpha's judgment. Him. Because he saw something they didn't. And she didn't know what that meant. Ronan stopped in front of her. Close. Too close. The heat of him pressed against her senses. His presence. Overwhelming. She couldn't look at him. Couldn't. Look at me. The command was quiet. But it held weight. Elira's body reacted before her mind could stop it. Her head lifted. Just slightly. Their eyes met. And everything stopped. The noise. The crowd. The fear. Gone. Just for a second. Because in his gaze, there was no disgust. No pity. No rejection. Only recognition. Her breath faltered. Why? Why was he looking at her like that? What did he see? What did he know? Ronan's gaze dropped. To the glowing mark. Then back to her eyes. Slow. Deliberate. And something shifted behind his expression. Understanding. Not complete. But enough. Enough to change everything. He straightened slightly. The air around him tightening. Claiming. Possessing. Not outwardly. Not yet. But it was there. Subtle. Dangerous. And in that moment, Ronan realized something no one else had. She wasn't broken. She wasn't cursed. She wasn't weak. She was something else entirely. Something rare. Something powerful. Something hidden. And now, he needed to know what. The mark pulsed again. Brighter. Elira flinched. The crowd murmured. Fear rising. What is she? Alpha, this isn't normal. Draven's voice cut through it. This ends now. But Ronan didn't move. Didn't step back. Didn't release his focus. Because the truth was right in front of him. And he wasn't done. Not even close. Now, he needed the truth. The silence didn't last. It never did. Tension, when left alone for too long, always broke. And this time, it shattered. Alpha Draven stepped forward. Slow. Controlled. But the restraint in his posture was already cracking. You forget where you stand, he said. His voice carried. Cold. Measured. Dangerous. The words were meant for Ronan. But his eyes, they were on her. Elira felt it like a blade pressed lightly against her skin. Not cutting. Not yet. Waiting. You walk into my territory, Draven continued, interrupt my judgment. A pause. Heavy. Intentional. And presumed to interfere. Ronan didn't move. Didn't answer. Didn't even look at him. That was worse. Because nothing angered a man like Draven more than being ignored. The courtyard shifted. Warriors straightened. Servants lowered their heads further. Even the rogues seemed to grow stiller. Waiting. For something to break. Draven exhaled slowly. Then smiled. Not kindly. Very well. His gaze sharpened. If you wish to witness the judgment. Another step forward. Then you will witness all of it. Elira's stomach dropped. No. The guard behind her moved before she could react. Hands on her arms. Hard. Unyielding. She was pulled back. Forced down. Her knees hit stone. The impact echoed up her spine. But she barely felt it. Because the real pain was already beginning. Stand her properly, Draven ordered. The guard adjusted his grip. Dragging her forward again. Positioning her directly in the center. No shadows. No corners. Only torchlight. Only eyes. Too many eyes. Elira's breath grew shallow. Her fingers curled into the fabric at her chest. Holding. Clinging. Don't shake. Don't break. Don't. Look at her. Seraphine's voice. Soft. Satisfied. She stepped forward. Slowly. Gracefully. Every movement designed to be seen. To think this is what Blackthorn has been hiding all this time. A ripple of murmurs spread. She walks our halls. Seraphine circled her. Like a predator tasting the air. Breathes our air. A step closer. Serves in our kitchens. She stopped just behind Elira. Leaning slightly. And we pretend she belongs here. Laughter. Low at first. Then growing. Elira closed her eyes. Not to escape. But to survive it. Because if she looked. If she met even one of those faces. It would break something she wouldn't be able to put back together. She should have been cast out years ago, someone called. A curse, another voice added. A stain on the pack. Elira's throat tightened. Her chest ached. But she said nothing. Because words would only feed them. And she had nothing left to give. Enough. Draven's voice cut through the noise. The laughter faded. But the cruelty didn't. It lingered. Hung in the air like smoke. Remove it. The command came sharper this time. Final. The guard's hand reached for her veil. Elira's eyes snapped open. No. Too late. The fabric was pulled. Torn away. And for a moment, the world held its breath. Then, gasps. Sharp. Uncontrolled. A woman turned away instantly. Another recoiled as if struck. Gods. Look at her. That's not natural. Elira felt it. Every reaction. Every flinch. Every shift of disgust. Like hands. Cold. Gripping. Pulling her apart. She couldn't breathe. Her vision blurred. And then, the laughter came. Not quiet. Not subtle. Cruel. Oh, she's worse than I imagined. How is she even still alive? Cover her. No, let everyone see. Elira's hands rose instinctively. Trying to cover her face. Trying to hide. But Seraphine caught her wrists. Firm. Unforgiving. No. The word was a whisper. But it held. Let them see what you are. Elira struggled. Just once. It wasn't enough. Her arms were forced down. Exposed. Helpless. And the final blow came. A voice from the crowd. Sharp. Clear. She's not a wolf. A pause. Then. She's a curse. Silence. Heavy. Absolute. Not because they disagreed. But because it felt true. Elira felt something inside her collapse. Not loudly. Not violently. Just enough. Her chest tightened. Her vision dimmed. And beneath her skin, something broke free. The mark. It burned. Not warm. Not flickering. Burning. Alive. Light seeped through her skin. Faint at first. Then stronger. Gold. Amber. Cracking through the illusion of control she had held for years. Elira gasped. Her body tensed. No. No, not now. She twisted slightly. Trying to hide it. Trying to press her hand over her neck. But it was too late. The glow pulsed again. Stronger. And this time, everyone saw it. What is that? The crowd shifted. Fear replacing mockery. That's not normal. Is she? Elira's breathing became uneven. Her heart raced. Too fast. Too loud. She couldn't stop it. The more she tried to suppress it, the stronger it became. Hold her. Draven's voice cut in again. Sharpen now. Threatened. The guard tightened his grip. But Elira barely felt it. Because the fire beneath her skin was spreading. Up her neck. Across her collarbone. She shook her head. Frantically. Please. It wasn't a plea to them. It was a plea to herself. To whatever this was. Stop. But it didn't. Because something had already changed. Not in her. In the air. A shift. Subtle. But undeniable. And Ronan felt it. Of course he did. He stepped forward. Slowly. Not rushing. Not reacting like the others. Not with fear. Not with disgust. With focus. Pure. Undivided. His gaze locked onto the mark. Watching. Measuring. Understanding. The crowd parted without realizing it. Giving him space. Giving him access. Elira saw him coming. Her breath caught. Because this was worse. Not the crowd. Not the insults. Not the Alpha's judgment. Him. Because he saw something they didn't. And she didn't know what that meant. Ronan stopped in front of her. Close. Too close. The heat of him pressed against her senses. His presence. Overwhelming. She couldn't look at him. Couldn't. Look at me. The command was quiet. But it held weight. Elira's body reacted before her mind could stop it. Her head lifted. Just slightly. Their eyes met. And everything stopped. The noise. The crowd. The fear. Gone. Just for a second. Because in his gaze, there was no disgust. No pity. No rejection. Only recognition. Her breath faltered. Why? Why was he looking at her like that? What did he see? What did he know? Ronan's gaze dropped. To the glowing mark. Then back to her eyes. Slow. Deliberate. And something shifted behind his expression. Understanding. Not complete. But enough. Enough to change everything. He straightened slightly. The air around him tightening. Claiming. Possessing. Not outwardly. Not yet. But it was there. Subtle. Dangerous. And in that moment, Ronan realized something no one else had. She wasn't broken. She wasn't cursed. She wasn't weak. She was something else entirely. Something rare. Something powerful. Something hidden. And now, he needed to know what. The mark pulsed again. Brighter. Elira flinched. The crowd murmured. Fear rising. What is she? Alpha, this isn't normal. Draven's voice cut through it. This ends now. But Ronan didn't move. Didn't step back. Didn't release his focus. Because the truth was right in front of him. And he wasn't done. Not even close. Now, he needed the truth. The courtyard did not return to normal. It couldn't. Too much had already been seen. Too much had already changed. The glow beneath Elira's skin had faded. But not completely. It lingered. Like embers beneath ash. And everyone felt it. The pack no longer looked at her with simple disgust. Now, there was something else. Fear. Alpha Draven saw it. Of course he did. And fear in a crowd was a weapon. Take her. The command came without hesitation. 2 guards moved instantly. Grabbing Elira's arms. Harder this time. Not to restrain. To control. She will be contained until I decide what she is. Elira's chest tightened. Contained. That word didn't mean safety. It meant prison. It meant silence. It meant disappearance. No, wait. The protest slipped out before she could stop it. Draven's gaze snapped to her. You do not speak. Cold. Absolute. But another voice followed. Let her. Ronan. The courtyard stilled again. Draven's jaw tightened. This does not concern you. Ronan stepped forward. Slow. Measured. It does now. Their eyes met. Power pressed against power. Not clashing. But testing. And for the first time, Draven hesitated. Just a fraction. But enough. Ronan turned his attention back to Elira. Bring her. He didn't look at the guards. Didn't raise his voice. But they obeyed. Without thinking. They released her. And stepped back. The shift was subtle. But undeniable. Authority had moved. Elira's knees nearly gave out. But she stayed standing. Barely. Ronan gestured once. Toward the edge of the courtyard. Walk. She hesitated. Because nothing about this felt safe. Nothing about him felt safe. And yet, her body moved. Step. Then another. He followed. Not close enough to touch. But close enough to feel. The crowd parted. No one stopped them. No one spoke. Because whatever was happening, it was no longer the pack's decision. They moved into the shadowed edge of the courtyard. Beyond the main torches. Where light softened. Where eyes could not see clearly. But he still could. Of course he could. Elira stopped. Her hands trembled at her sides. She didn't turn around. Didn't want to. But she felt him there. Behind her. Watching. Turn. Her breath hitched. She obeyed. Slowly. Their eyes met again. Up close. It was worse. His gaze wasn't just intense. It was precise. Like he was taking her apart. Piece by piece. Layer by layer. What are you? The question came quietly. Not cruel. Not mocking. Dangerous. Elira shook her head. I don't know. A lie. Or half of one. Because she knew enough. Enough to be afraid. Ronan stepped closer. Not invading. But closing distance. Try again. His voice lowered. Not louder. But heavier. Elira swallowed. I don't know what you want me to say. Another step. Closer now. Her pulse spiked. The mark warmed again. Reacting. To him. That realization hit harder than anything else. Why? Why him? Your neck. The words were simple. But they froze her. She stepped back instinctively. No. Too fast. Too sharp. Ronan's eyes narrowed slightly. Not in anger. In focus. There's something there. Elira shook her head again. No, there isn't. Stop lying. The words cut. Not because of their force. But because of their certainty. He knew. Not everything. But enough. The mark pulsed. Stronger. Her breath caught. No. She pressed her hand against it again. Trying to hold it down. Trying to force it quiet. But it flared. Bright. Gold and amber spilling through her skin. Uncontrolled. Unstoppable. Ronan didn't move. Didn't reach for her. Didn't react like the others. He watched. And something shifted in his expression. Recognition. Sharp. Immediate. You've been hiding it. Elira's chest tightened. I didn't have a choice. A sound cut through the night. Sharp. Violent. Steel. Everyone turned. Too late. The attack came from the outer perimeter. Fast. Silent until the last second. Then chaos. A rogue. No. Not Ronan's. Different. Wild. Uncontrolled. Burst through the outer guard line. Then another. And another. Not organized. Not loyal. Hunters. Drawn by something. Or someone. The courtyard erupted. Shouts. Blades drawn. Defend the Alpha. Warriors surged forward. But the attackers weren't aiming for Draven. They moved past him. Through the chaos. Toward Her. Elira froze. Why? Why were they coming for her? The mark burned. Hot. Violent. Like it was calling to them. No. One lunged. Fast. Too fast. Elira didn't think. Didn't plan. Didn't choose. She reacted. In the moment she did, everything changed. The mark exploded with light. Not a glow. A surge. Energy burst outward. Violent. Radiant. A shockwave ripped through the space around her. The attacker was thrown back. Hard. Slamming into stone. The second froze mid-step. Eyes wide. The third staggered. As if something unseen had struck him. The courtyard went silent. Just for a second. Because what they saw was impossible. Light coiled around Elira's body. Not soft. Not gentle. Wild. Powerful. Alive. Her hair lifted slightly. As if touched by wind that didn't exist. Her eyes. They flickered. Not red. Not gold. Something deeper. Something older. And for the first time, everyone understood. This was not a curse. This was something else. Something they had never seen before. She's dangerous. The shout broke the silence. Then another. Kill her. Alpha, she's not one of us. Fear spread faster than fire. Turning the crowd. Twisting the moment. Elira staggered back. The light flickering. Fading. She looked around. At the faces. The same faces that had mocked her. Now terrified. Now ready to destroy her. Her chest tightened. Tears burned behind her eyes. I didn't mean. Her voice broke. I didn't. No one listened. They never did. Blades rose. Not at the attackers. At her. And that hurt more than anything. Because she had just saved them. And they still chose fear. Still chose rejection. Still chose to see her as something wrong. Elira's knees buckled. The light vanished. Gone. Leaving her exposed. Empty. Broken. I'm sorry. The whisper barely carried. But it didn't matter. Because this was the moment. The moment where everything ended. Where judgment would fall. Where she would finally be erased. She lowered her head. Waiting. For the order. For the execution. For the final rejection. And slowly. She looked up. Not at the Alpha. At him. Ronan. Because somehow. This mattered. What he decided next. Would decide everything. The courtyard held its breath. Waiting. Watching. And Elira realized. With terrifying clarity. This was the moment he would decide her fate. No one moved. Not at first. The courtyard stood frozen. As if time itself had been forced to kneel. Elira remained where she had fallen. On her knees. Her palms pressed weakly against the cold stone. Her shoulders trembling. Her breath uneven. Tears slipped silently down her face. Unnoticed. Unstopped. She didn't wipe them away. What was the point? There was nothing left to protect. Nothing left to hide. The veil was gone. The secret was exposed. The truth had burned its way into the open. And the pack had already decided. Kill her. The voice came from somewhere behind. Sharp. Certain. She's dangerous. She's not one of us. Another voice. Closer this time. She should have been destroyed years ago. Elira flinched. Not from the words. From how easily they came. From how quickly they turned. Just moments ago, they had laughed at her. Now, they feared her. And fear was always worse. Because fear didn't mock. Fear destroyed. I didn't mean to. Her voice cracked. Barely sound. I didn't want. Silence. Alpha Draven's command struck the air like a blade. The voices stopped. But the hatred didn't. It lingered. Heavy. Waiting. Draven stepped forward. His boots echoed across stone. Slow. Deliberate. Each step. A verdict drawing closer. Elira lowered her head. She couldn't look at him. Couldn't look at anyone. Because she already knew what came next. This was how it ended. Not quietly. Not mercifully. But in front of everyone. Just as it had begun. With witnesses. Draven stopped in front of her. You are no wolf. His voice was cold. Flat. You are no Omega. A pause. You are a threat. Elira's fingers curled into the stone. There it was. The word that sealed her fate. Threat. Not a person. Not a girl. A problem. And problems were eliminated. You will be. No. The word cut through the courtyard. Not loud. But absolute. Draven froze. Slowly. He turned. Ronan stood behind him. Unmoved. Unshaken. Watching. Not the Alpha. Her. Always her. This is not your decision. Draven's voice sharpened. Ronan didn't respond. He stepped forward. Once. The rogues behind him shifted slightly. Not aggressively. Not threatening. But ready. Always ready. Elira felt it. That presence. That weight. Drawing closer again. Her breath hitched. Why was he still here? Why hadn't he walked away? Why hadn't he done what everyone else did? Reject her. Condemn her. End it. Ronan stopped in front of her. Close. Too close. She could feel the heat of him. The steadiness. The control. Elira's body trembled harder. She didn't look up. Couldn't. Because hope was more dangerous than fear. Look at me. The command came quietly. But it held her. She shook her head. No. Not again. She couldn't survive another look. Another reaction. Another judgment. I said. A pause. Look at me. Stronger this time. Not louder. But deeper. Something in her broke. Her chin lifted. Just slightly. Enough. Enough to meet his gaze. And in that moment, everything slowed. Because there was no disgust. No anger. No rejection. Only certainty. Ronan's hand rose. Slowly. Deliberately. The entire courtyard watched. Breath held. Waiting. For what came next. His fingers closed around her chin. Firm. Controlled. Not gentle. Not cruel. Possessive. Elira's breath caught. Her body stilled. He tilted her face upward. Fully. Exposing her. The mark. Still faintly glowing beneath her skin. Visible. Unmistakable. A ripple of sound moved through the crowd. Fear. Recognition. Confusion. Ronan studied it. Not quickly. Not carelessly. Like it mattered. Like it meant something. Then his gaze lifted. Back to her eyes. And the silence. The silence became unbearable. Because everyone knew. This was it. The final moment. The decision. Elira's chest tightened. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. This was where he would step back. Where he would release her. Where he would say what they all believed. That she was wrong. That she was dangerous. That she was nothing. She braced herself. For rejection. For execution. For the final humiliation. And then. He spoke. She belongs to me. The words fell into the courtyard. Like thunder. Not loud. But unstoppable. For a second. No one reacted. Because no one understood. Then. Chaos. What? That's impossible. She's nothing. Draven's voice cut through it all. Absolutely not. Rage. Pure. Uncontrolled. You will not claim what is mine to judge. Ronan didn't look at him. Didn't move his hand. Didn't release her. She is not yours. Simple. Final. The words carried weight. Ownership. Authority. Power. And the shift. It happened instantly. The crowd felt it. Saw it. Understood it. This was no longer about punishment. This was a claim. A public one. Irrevocable. Elira stared at him. Her mind struggled to catch up. To understand. Why? Why her? Why now? Why? You don't understand, she whispered. Her voice trembling. I'm not. I know exactly what you are. Ronan's voice cut through hers. Calm. Certain. And something inside her. Something fragile. Shattered. Not from pain. From disbelief. Because for the first time, someone wasn't guessing. Someone wasn't judging. Someone knew. Her breath hitched. Tears blurred her vision. Not from fear. Not anymore. From something far more dangerous. Hope. Draven stepped forward again. You think this makes you powerful? He snarled. You think claiming a defect proves anything? Ronan's gaze shifted. Finally. To him. And for the first time. There was something in it. Not anger. Not rage. Worse. A warning. Say that again. Quiet. Deadly. Draven hesitated. Just for a second. But it was enough. Because the entire courtyard saw it. The Alpha had stepped back. Power shifted. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But undeniably. Elira felt it beneath her knees. In the air. In the silence that followed. She was no longer just a girl on the ground. She was something else now. Something claimed. Something chosen. And that changed everything. Ronan released her chin. But not his presence. Not his claim. Not his decision. And as the courtyard struggled to understand what had just happened, Elira realized something terrifying. Her life, the one she had known, was already gone. Because in that moment, everything changed. The silence that followed his claim was not empty. It was heavy. Because everyone understood what had just happened. A line had been crossed. Not stepped over. Not tested. Broken. Alpha Draven moved first. Of course he did. Power like his could not sit still when challenged. You think you can walk into my pack? His voice rose. Controlled, but barely. And take what you want? Ronan didn't answer. He didn't need to. Because the answer was already there. In the way he stood. In the way no one moved against him. In the way the air itself seemed to hold. Draven stepped closer. You claim her, he said, sharper now. A defect? A threat? The word hung. Threat. Again. But this time, it didn't land the same. Because something had shifted. Ronan's gaze hardened. Choose your next word carefully. Quiet. Deadly. Draven hesitated. Just long enough. Then he pushed forward anyway. I don't answer to rogues. A mistake. The kind you don't feel. Until it's too late. Ronan moved. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just one step forward. But the ground seemed to respond. Pressure. Weight. An invisible force pressing outward from him. The torches flickered. The wolves at the edge of the courtyard lowered. Not in fear. In instinct. Submission. Draven's breath caught. Just slightly. But the pack saw it. They all saw it. And that was enough. Power didn't need to be proven twice. Ronan didn't raise his voice. He didn't draw a weapon. He simply said, "She stands with me." Final. Absolute. No challenge. No room for one. The silence that followed was acceptance. Not willing. Not proud. But real. The pack stepped back. Not as one. Not formally. But enough. Enough to create space. Enough to acknowledge what had already been decided. Elira felt it. That shift. That distance. They weren't looking at her the same anymore. Not with disgust. Not with mockery. With caution. With uncertainty. With something close to respect. It didn't feel real. It couldn't be. Her hands trembled as she slowly stood. No one stopped her. No one touched her. No one dared. The girl who had been forced to hide now stood in full view. And no one told her to cover her face. Not anymore. The mark at her neck flickered softly. Not burning. Not out of control. Alive. Ronan turned slightly. Come. Just that. No force. No command. A choice. Elira hesitated. For the first time. She wasn't being dragged. Wasn't being pushed. Wasn't being ordered. She looked at the pack. At the place that had defined her. Broken her. Silenced her. Then she looked at him. And stepped forward. The courtyard disappeared behind them. The noise faded. The judgment quieted. Until there was nothing left but the forest beyond. Still. Dark. Honest. They stopped just past the edge of the torchlight. Where shadows softened. Where the world felt less sharp. Elira stood there. Unsure. Then slowly. Her hand lifted. Not to hide. Just to exist. Ronan watched her. Then stepped closer. Not invading. Not overwhelming. Steady. His hand rose. This time. Not to claim. But to touch. His fingers brushed the mark at her neck. Gentle. Careful. The glow responded instantly. Soft. Warm. Not painful. Not violent. Alive. Elira inhaled sharply. But she didn't pull away. Didn't flinch. Because this time. It didn't feel like exposure. It felt like understanding. She lifted her gaze. Met his eyes. Fully. No fear. No hesitation. And for the first time in her life. She didn't look away. Ronan's expression didn't change. But something in his eyes did. Recognition. Acceptance. Something deeper. Something that didn't need words. The wind moved softly through the trees. The night settled around them. And the world. For once. Didn't feel like it was closing in. Elira exhaled. Slowly. Steadily. And the truth settled in. Not loudly. Not all at once. But enough. Enough to change everything. For the first time in her life, she wasn't something to hide. She was something to be claimed.